So one of the main things that I was curious about with Alamosaurus here is the extent of osteoderms.
Who died? Well, yeah, you died of thirst because you were just hanging out on a building. You can fly.
It's like a Family Guy death posture for a pterosaur.
I kind of want to leave it there.
Yeah, I think you leave it. That's so funny. Can we get a close-up?
Hang on, let me enter. Womp. Wow, I take a picture of this with my phone.
Hi, everybody. We're the Skeleton Crew, and today we're going to talk to you about a sauropod. It's our last sauropod, right?
And it's the last sauropod. So.
Yeah, well, in North America. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely it was probably one of the last sauropods, for sure.
Yeah, almost certainly.
Well, if you trust Gilmore, definitely the last sauropod.
I trust Gilmore with all of my heart. I'd follow that man anywhere. I've already followed him to hell.
There certainly weren't many after this.
No, there were not. So we're talking about Alamosaurus today. We're never going to forget. Although, as you'll learn later, it's okay to forget this one in particular. So before we talk about Alamosaurus, there's something else that's related to a sauropod that I want to tell you about. And that's that we've got a bunch of new stickers on Etsy. And one of them has a sauropod on it. Scott made it.
Indeed. It is based off of the funniest scientific paper I've ever read in my entire life. That is just a published and assumedly peer-reviewed roasting, an incredibly personal roasting of another researcher. And specifically refers to this specimen as physically and mentally bad. That is partially taken out of context, but it fits the vibe of the paper.
Absolutely. And the other one, Amelia made, which is a wonderful... Well, do you want to describe it?
Yes. So we made a fun of vaporwave, I'm told the style is, sticker with a triceratops skull that glows and a fun background. Those ones are on holographic stickers, so they're fun and shiny. And they will be out by the time this video comes out, because we are ahead of schedule for once with something. So those will be out.
Praise be.
Praise be. Those will have been out for a while, but if you've been holding off on placing your Etsy order for those or the pins or the other sticker, I suppose, warning, the free shipping on our Etsy shop will be ending soon after this video comes out. There will be a post about it, so don't worry about missing the day. But if you have been postponing your Etsy purchase, just know that if you are not a Jungersuchus patron or above, you will lose access to the free domestic shipping that we have had thus far.
So if you are one of our patrons, I guess you don't need to worry about the end of free shipping. If you're not already one of our patrons, maybe consider joining our Patreon. I think it's great.
Me too.
And that's all the endorsement you should need. The endorsement from somebody who's financially benefited by you subscribing to it.
Hey, he has a PhD. That means you have to listen to him.
I couldn't lie.
You can't. It's illegal.
I can't.
That's a George Washington clause in the PhD.
Exactly. Oh, how I wish that's what it meant. It would be much better. But anyway, I'm also Dr. James Napoli. I'm a research instructor at Stony Brook University's Renaissance School of Medicine.
My name is Amelia Zietlow. I'm a PhD candidate at the American Museum of Natural History. Today, coming at you from the void, as I'm currently, as you might have known from the stream, still home in Milwaukee.
My name is Scott Johnston. I'm the vertebrate paleontology fossil preparator and technician at Harvard University's Museum of Comparative Zoology.
And my name is Dalton Meyer. I'm a PhD candidate at Yale University, and today I'm the only PhD candidate at Yale University in this video. Alex is off gallivanting about New England, as he is wont to do.
It's Alex. That's a good assumption.
Collecting new fell omens and pieces of artwork and poetry that hurt the eyes and ears.
That does sound very Alex.
That is a really good descriptor of the things Alex is into.
And together.
Oh, yes.
We're the skeleton crew.
skeleton
We are the
crew.
skeleton crew. I am the skeleton crew. But anyway, why don't we let some things out of the hatchery? I'm surprised you can't just see them sticking up out of it.
Yeah.
It's just when they're done, it's just like sticking up like a telephone pole.
Here they come.
Is it just one or is it two?
Oh, I
It's
think
two.
it was bent over.
It's two.
They just can't go side by each because it's too narrow.
Did you just say side by each?
It's a turn of phrase that Shelby has introduced into my life that I love a lot.
Man,
It's pretty majestic, even
It
though
is-
it is
they
nice.
look like
majestic.
this.
Even though they look like this,
Yeah.
I think they look nice.
I really, really don't hate it. But I do just like the face.
Yeah, the head's not.
It gives very Littlefoot.
It gives very turtle. It gives very elongated turtle.
That's the vibe I get from sauropods anyway.
No, but even more so than usual because a lot of sauropods can give like horrible
It's
horse
exactly-
energy.
It's exactly Littlefoot's mom's face. Or not his mom, his grandma.
Oh my god, it kind of is.
I think it was directly modeled off of The Land Before Time.
Cue the sad
That's my
oboe
new-
music.
Yeah, that's my new theory about how this model came into being. But anyway, what animal is this?
It's Alamosaurus.
The Alamo?
Remember.
What's its name mean?
Alamosaurus means Alamo lizard. We're leaving out the because it's not for the Alamo in Texas. It is for the Ojo Alamo Formation, and the species epithet is sanjuanensis for San Juan County ? In New Mexico,
County, period.
okay, where it was found.
Yes, and that may make sense because it was not found in Texas and therefore was not named after a landmark in Texas.
Yes, which
Yes.
is surprising given that many remains have subsequently been found in Texas. Mm-hmm. Which
But
confuses the issue.
Have they been found at the Alamo?
I don't think anybody's looked. Nobody.
People
just
are too busy-
remembering.
They're too busy remembering to look for fossils.
Right.
Well, they should remember deeper to the Cretaceous.
I agree.
should.
I think it would be very funny if we now petitioned the Texas government to just say, like, there's got to be an Alamosaurus under the Alamo. It's complete. Skin
You gotta dig it
impressions.
up.
That's why they named it that.
Right.
We're gonna finally figure out the mystery of the osteoderms based on the one that's under the Alamo.
Yes, but it did make me look into the word Alamo a little bit,
Yes.
which it turns out is Spanish for poplar and /or Spanish for like cottonwood. It's what the Spanish referred to the cottonwood trees in the Southwest as was Alamo, and the actual place, the Alamo, was originally named the Mission San Antonio de Valero. It's in San Antonio, Texas, and was at some point became referred to as the Alamo sometime in the 19th century, according to Wikipedia, perhaps because of a nearby grove of cottonwood trees.
So it's just kind of a nickname.
Essentially, yes.
Now, I've always found it just linguistically weird that we don't call it Alamo, we call it the Alamo. Which led me for my whole life, I've never looked this up, to wonder what is an Alamo. Now I know. Thank you, Dalton.
So I guess that there could be, even though it is not stated as the reason why it is called this, there is an interpretation that you could say that this is like the poplar lizard, named after trees,
You could.
very distantly, by the transitive
Is that-
property.
Is that what the formation is named for?
I believe so. It's. I was trying to find out the etymology of the Ojo Alamo Formation as well, and did not find it particularly listed. But it does mean like the eye of the Alamo, because Ojo is Spanish for eye. So it might mean like poplar eye or really more cottonwood eye, because I think in this part of the country.
I wonder.
To these cottonwoods.
I wonder if colloquially, if you're a native Spanish speaker, tell me if I'm right or wrong on this idea that I just pulled out of my butt. I wonder if colloquially, eye refers to like knot, like in a tree, like
I think it might.
potatoes have eyes, sort of thing.
I thought Okay, never mind. I didn't know the Spanish word for eye. I'm learning. I thought it was oro, or is that just another one?
Oro
Would that
means...
not be mouth?
I think oro... It's been a while since I've done Spanish. That means gold. Yeah, oro is gold. And plata is silver.
Okay, that makes more... Okay, so the reason I thought that was at the garden center that I worked at, we had a very popular plant that as soon as you see it everywhere. It was Stella de Oro daylilies. And the English words that they had on there was like star of the eye or something like that. I thought, I don't know. That's what I don't remember. This was years ago, but that's why I had that association.
I see.
It could have also been gold star, and I'm stupid and I misremembered.
The reason I remember that ojo is eye is because when I was in field camp in New Mexico, up by Taos, New Mexico, there is a hot spring called Ojos Caliente, which means hot eyes.
Nice.
And we went there on our one day off in the first week of field camp, and it's the most relaxed I've ever been in my entire life. Ojos Caliente is an amazing hot springs resort, which is also like a place dedicated to total quiet, in which people walk around with these little signs that have wind chimes on them that say, please respect the quiet environment. Essentially and then it like come up to you if you're making too much noise and kind of dangle the sign by you. Our friend asked one of the people who we were with, he's like, hey, can I hold that? And they were kind of, I think, dumbfounded by someone asking that. So they were like, sure, I guess. And then he immediately started to walk over to harass another group of people. And the employee was like, no, you got to give that back.
Can we do a
was this
Skeleton Crew special there?
I would love to.
Dalton, was this friend a frequent but right now absent member of the Skeleton Crew?
No, because this is my undergraduate experience.
This sounds like something Alex would do.
It does, but no, this is before I knew Alex.
Yeah, no,
shame.
Dalton just likes to befriend people who would do that. Now, so Dalton, we must be in the Ojo Alamo formation, right?
No, you're wrong. We're in an environment. I tried to look into the paleo environment of the Ojo Alamo formation, and I think it wouldn't be too dissimilar from this, maybe a little drier. But we're actually in the Javelina formation, as evidenced by the quetzalcoatlus slowly flying by and the Torosaurus bumbling about occasionally. We've been here before for the quetzalcoatlus episode, and Alamosaurus remains are known from the Javelina formation, despite the fact that they were originally found in the Ojo Alamo formation. They've also been found in several other places too, several other formations. Remains of Alamosaurus have been found across the late Cretaceous of the American Southwest, up into Utah, which is, I believe, as far north as we've found them.
I think that's right. Yes. I'm curious now. We might not know, are the Ojo Alamo and the Javelina formations lateral equivalents? Because there's a part of me that would not be surprised. You know?
I don't know. The Javelina is 70 to 66 million years old, and the Ojo Alamo is 69 to 64 million years old. So they're not exactly contemporaneous, but they overlap. They may be laterally contiguous. I don't know.
I mean, like, I've just kind of noticed that there tend to be taxa that are shared.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it might make sense if it's just kind of like it's a geographic difference more than
and I think
than anything. Yeah,
some of that might be some historic stuff too.
That's true. Yeah,
of kind of referring to things in the Southwest as just being others of that thing. The Ojo Alamo formation overlies the Kirtland formation.
Yes,
and I think there is some debate, and there was at the time when Alamosaurus was discovered, if like Ojo Alamo should be considered like the upper Kirtland or not. But I think people tend to now be like, no, they're different. Well,
because there's an unconformity. There's about 4 million years missing, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So I agree with that. And what is also cool is the Ojo Alamo crosses the KPG.
It does. It crosses the KPG to the point that the original remains were described by Charles Gilmore when he named Alamosaurus, which was based off of a scapula and an ischium in 1922, and he made a remark. This is at a time when there were very few Cretaceous sauropods known worldwide. Even we knew about them from Europe and South America and Asia and in India, but he lists in the paper. He's like, there are all these sauropod remains purportedly from the Upper Cretaceous across the world, but apparently, at least at the time, the stratigraphy of most of those remains was not yet totally solid, and nor was there referrals. He's like, there's all these purported late Cretaceous sauropods, but we're not 100% sure that they're sauropods, and we're not 100% sure they're all late Cretaceous. They mostly turned out to be that case. But he's like, this one's definitely a sauropod because I've seen the scapula and it looks like a sauropod and it's huge. And it's definitely from the late Cretaceous because the person who found it was a stratigrapher and apparently quite a good one. And so he writes that this is very significant because now there's an Upper Cretaceous sauropod. And even makes the statement that sauropod dinosaurs continued to exist until after the Cenomanian, and even into the Danian. There is every reason to believe.
What are those reasons, Gilmore?
There is no reason to believe any sauropod made it to the Danian. The Danian,
and there's a like 6.5 mile wide reason to believe that they might not have.
Yes,
I was about to say if they're in the Southwest, they're like evaporated, right?
Yeah,
gone, reduced to atoms.
Yeah.
For those unaware, the Danian is the earliest stage of the Paleocene, so it is immediately after the asteroid impact. There are no Alamosaurus in the Danian, probably.
What if there were, though?
There might have been like 2 or 3, and then they died horribly.
Right. Well, yes. I mean, I guess technically a lot of species of dinosaur, if the mark is the moment of impact, technically every dinosaur that was alive in the Maastrichtian made it into the Danian.
For a day or two.
Right, for about 5 to 6 minutes.
A minute or two.
Or minutes, seconds, yeah.
Right. Again, best paper title of all time remains, and will always be Survival in the First Hours of the Cenozoic. That's a perfect paper. I've never read it. I've read the title. I don't think I can put up with the brilliance of the rest of the paper. I don't think I could take it.
Well, but I think the pretty good paper title is there was one on, I believe it's like chemical signaling in sea anemones, and it's called Behind Anemone Lines, and it makes me very happy.
That's also very good.
Sorry, I thought of another one.
I did too.
Go on. What's yours?
Well, there's the one about the evolution of human parasites in primates, like into humans, with specific emphasis on pubic and head lice, which is fun. And the paper's name is Pair of Lice Lost or Parasites Regained, which is, again, wonderful. And also just as a paper with some interesting implications for how we got genital lice into the human species. Because what's not really commented on, and you can see the authors kind of, in my opinion, kind of trying to not comment on it, is like, ooh, it sure is interesting that the sister taxon of our genital lice are gorilla genital lice.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. And they're just
Dalton
like
made me
along.
watch Chimp Crazy, so I really don't like that.
I haven't watched Chimp Crazy yet. No.
I will say briefly, to bring us back to the idea of Danian Alamosaurus, just that at the time it was written, this was not a totally outlandish idea, because it was not well understood why dinosaurs went extinct or the nature of their extinction and how sudden it was.
It was a long time.
Yeah, despite the fact that we have not found any Paleocene dinosaurs, there was, especially before the asteroid hypothesis was widely accepted. Don't you dare. We haven't found any cool Paleocene dinosaurs. Let me put it that way. We haven't found any that I would call a dinosaur. We've found plenty of birds. But
Alex isn't here. Scott, he briefly possessed Scott.
Despite the fact that we haven't found any, it was not an unreasonable expectation to say, hey, maybe we will someday, if the extinction was gradual.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, there was a much more gradualistic idea of how, like, extinction and like faunal turnover worked for a long time. this could become a stun lock, but I'm going to stop it from becoming one.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, the idea of sudden violent mass extinctions was itself a very revolutionary concept.
It really was. I
Well,
mean,
like, right, we had no reason to think that's how it would usually work.
No,
look at Fantasia.
It kind of went against the grain of historically geology as a science had moved from catastrophism to gradualism, and for good reason, because most geologic processes are very slow and gradual. And so the idea of kind of invoking catastrophism for a mass extinction is an extraordinary claim.
Uncouth.
And in this case, we do have the extraordinary evidence to support it.
Right. Oh, look at him stretch.
I really
big
like
stretch.
They keep doing these big stretches, and I'm really enjoying it.
I do like that. Now, so we've talked about what his name means. We've talked about where he is. But what we haven't discussed yet is what kind of sauropod we're looking at. We're looking at Alamosaurus.
Remember?
I forgot. No, but Alamosaurus is a late surviving, presumably one of the last members of the group Sauropodomorpha. This is, a group that contains the most basal member known right now is Eoraptor, which anybody my age would remember from like being in a lot of documentaries.
Yeah.
Eoraptor was kind of gradually reinterpreted as being a sauropodomorph in the early 2010s, which is now kind of, we think that's the earliest step in the evolution of that group, essentially. Still bipedal.
Mm-hmm.
Then you've got the Plateosaurs, I say, the prosauropods, or I was trying to say basal sauropodomorph and sauropod at the same time. We used to call them prosauropods. They're not one group. It's a paraphyletic kind of grade. But these are things like Plateosaurus, Lufengosaurus, Massospondylus. They're becoming larger. They're getting very long necks. They're still probably obligate bipeds at that point, which makes them look very weird and off balance. But
Yeah.
They're very goofy looking when they're appropriately shown like that.
I love the depiction of Plateosaurus and life on our planet, by the way. I think that's actually the best realized dinosaur in the entire.
It's so
Yeah,
good.
I think you're right.
Well, it's either that or the Archosaurus that just looks like a real animal that they just photographed.
The Archosaurus
That's-
does look good, yeah. But the Plateosaurus has some majesty to it.
It really does.
But anyway, then you go into the Jurassic, and sauropodomorphs kind of explode in diversity. And there's a lot that we could say, and a lot that we have said, and a lot that Alex specifically has said about the evolution of these different groups. And so I'll remind you of this group Macronaria, which means big noses. This is where Brachiosaurus and Camarasaurus go. So Macronarians are around in the Jurassic. Camarasaurus and Brachiosaurus are both Jurassic Macronarians that we've already talked about. But then there's also subgroups of Macronaria. One of them is called Somphospondyli. And I don't
Rolls
know
off the
what that
tongue.
means. But within Somphospondyli...
Their spondyles are somphos.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
Yeah.
Within Somphospondyli, and I think there's a little bit dependent on what analysis you're going with, but I think that clade is generally pretty agreed upon. There are relatives of the sauropod Euhelipus, and then there's also the Titanosauria, which are these extremely large and apparently quite diverse sauropodomorphs that are kind of, to my estimation, seem to be the dominant sauropodomorphs in the Cretaceous. Are there flagellocaudатans or diplodocoids from the Cretaceous?
Maybe from the early, but I don't think by the time
me
we get to
see.
the late Cretaceous, I don't think there's anything but titanosaurs.
I'm gonna take a look, but I think you're right.
By the way, Somphospondyli actually does mean spongy vertebrae.
Of course.
Awful that they are that way.
Yeah, that's a bad thing. They shouldn't have done that. It's in reference to the porous bone texture within the vertebrae.
Oh, so there is a Cretaceous one. There are a couple of Cretaceous diplodocids, but they're rarer. Two we've talked about already.
Oh.
Amargasaurus and Nigersaurus.
Oh, yeah.
Well, early Cretaceous.
Yeah.
Are there any late Cretaceous?
As
or is
far as I'm
Nigersaurus?
aware, no. No, as far as I'm aware, they taper out by the mid-Cretaceous. But what's interesting is these diplodocoids that are actually alive in the early to mid-Cretaceous are like these kind of early diverging weird ones. Like the group of Flagella caudata, which is, Diplodocus, Patasaurus, Brontosaurus, they're all gone by this point, as far as we're aware.
Yeah.
So you wind up with like Rebbachisaurids and Dicraeosaurids, and there are a couple of survivors. But really, the sauropod record of the Cretaceous is dominated by these titanosaurs. Mm-hmm. Now, within titanosaurs, there are a couple of subgroups, and the actual phylogenetic arrangements of the animals within this group are, to my estimation, kind of unclear. But the general agreement seems to be that Alamosaurus is a member of a group called Saltasauridae, or is just outside of that group, but on a branch that is close to the animal Saltasaurus, which you may have heard of. This was always the example of an armored sauropod dinosaur when I was like a kid.
Same. And I always thought that Saltasaurus was named Saltasaurus because it was covered in armor, so it looks like it was sprinkled in salt.
I also thought that, but that's
not the case.
What does it mean? I'm now curious.
It is the lizard from Salta, which is the capital of the Argentine province in which it was found.
Oh,
so that shows some ignorance in our knowledge of Argentinian geography.
I'm so sorry.
When I was a child, especially.
Yes, as a child, I did not, and frankly, as an adult, my
rich history of ignorance of Argentinian geography.
And so that's effectively where this animal goes. And titanosaurs are characterized by a couple of interesting trends. One of them is that they've got these weird-looking heads. I don't really know how best to describe them other than they're kind of doofy-looking.
Yeah.
They look like a pickup truck in reverse.
Yeah.
They got like a flat bed of a nose and then just a cab for the eyes and the brain.
They almost... I've described them to people as they look like one of those weird, uncanny child's drawings of a horse head. Like, it's weirdly curved into, oh my god, speaking of things that are curved.
Sorry. Someone wanted attention. Hopefully he doesn't start to bite the shit out of my arm.
The titanosaur of cats.
Yes.
Oh, I love that animal. He's so good.
He's a very good animal.
But yeah, titanosaur heads are very weird. And notably, they don't look like this.
No.
No, they do not.
Now, we don't, to be fair, we don't have a tremendous amount of titanosaur heads. There are a few particularly good ones, things like Sarmientosaurus and Diamantosaurus.
Mm-hmm. Those are like the good ones.
Are the good, and they look similar enough to one another that I think it is reasonable to kind of extrapolate that as the null hypothesis for titanosaur heads.
Yeah,
but we have never found any skull remains of an Alamosaurus except for teeth that are referred to Alamosaurus.
Mm-hmm.
But no, it does not look like this.
Which I do find a little bit funny because Alamosaurus is a common dinosaur in the region.
Well, is it?
Yes, at least from a couple of the things that I read, Alamosaurus remains, or at least remains attributed to Alamosaurus, are some of, if not the most common finds in the Alamosaurus fauna region of the Southwest U.S.
And what I was getting at is like how confident we are that they're all Alamosaurus.
Oh, okay. I wasn't sure if that was a dovetail into I think these people are wrong and dumb and this is something we need to cut.
No. But so yes, it does. Certainly, sauropod fossils are fairly common in the area.
Yes.
I would say my question is whether they're all Alamosaurus.
Yes.
I don't think we've got sufficient material to really say.
Yes, a lot of them do not have overlapping material, and it's rough.
Right. But that's what Alamosaurus is. And so we mentioned Saltasaurus, which is this, as you may recall, armored titanosaur. And I think that that's a good dovetail into a point that I'm going to let somebody else pick up because I have to pee badly, and I'm going to disappear. But I cast upon you. I bequeath you my segue.
So one of the main things that I was curious about with Alamosaurus here is the extent of osteoderms. Uh-oh.
Who died? Well, yeah, you died of thirst because you were just hanging out on a building. You can fly.
It's a Family Guy death posture for a pterosaur.
I kind of want to leave it there.
Yeah, I think you leave it. That's so funny. Can we get a close-up?
Hang on, let me enter. Womp. Wow. I take a picture of this with my phone.
Dalton, you can screenshot.
I'm sending it as a Snapchat.
Oh.
Well, okay.
That is so cool.
Cool. So, Scott,
I think that'll be the cold open, actually. That's a really good one.
You were curious about osteoderms?
Yes.
Yeah. Curious about osteoderms, were you, Scott?
So, I was really curious about osteoderms in titanosaurs. Kind of just in general, because this is the only titanosaur in the game that actually has osteoderms. But in particular, I was curious about a specific paleoart meme that has come up in recent years of, to put it the way that I put it to my friends here, giving it an armored ass. Namely, this pattern of distributing large, spiky osteoderms around the top of the pelvis and kind of the sacral area and kind of extending down the tail in this double, almost stegosaur-like row, or almost even crocodilian-like row. I bet that that's the other quetzalcoatlus that's dying.
No, it's this Alamosaurus over here. What's wrong with you? You're thirsty. Go to the water.
You can see it. You're really tall.
Here, I'm gonna lake for you.
There you go.
Drink up.
So I did a little bit of digging into this, and turns out the history of research on titanosaur osteoderms is a bit rough. Namely, that osteoderms are not found very frequently with titanosaurs. And I'll quote directly from a paper here by Matt Carano and Michael Demick. Osteoderms of the titanosaur sauropod dinosaur Alamosaurus sanjuanensis, Gilmore, 1922. And in the first paragraph, they say, although most titanosaurs were thought to have been unarmored, it has been difficult to definitively assert that particular species lacked osteoderms based on absence alone. Several practical problems attend this determination. The uncertain in vivo placement of sauropod osteoderms, for those of you who don't know Latin, that means where they were on the body in life. Their lack of connection to other bony structures, and their rarity even in taxa that are known to possess them. And that in particular is an interesting point for Alamosaurus, because Alamosaurus, for a very long time, along with, as mentioned here, Apistosilicadia, were known to be definitively osteodermless. These guys were unarmored. At least it was thought so.
Dermless and diliatal.
They were dermless and diliatal. And that wasn't just because it's just like, oh, we found one and there weren't osteoderms directly on it, so it was unarmored. Alamosaurus, again, as we mentioned earlier, at least we think is at least incredibly common fossils in this southwest U.S. Late Cretaceous fauna. So the fact that we had found so many Alamosaurus of several different ontogenetic stages, and none of them had osteoderms in association with them, was seen as some pretty solid evidence that this particular titanosaur did not have them, at least until the, I guess, identification of a specimen that was discovered in 1937 of an Alamosaurus that's at the Smithsonian that is an articulated partial skeleton that some of it's in kind of bad shape, but it's some dorsal vertebrae, a sacrum, a complete caudal vertebral series with chevrons, several dorsal ribs, a complete pectoral girdle, a nearly complete forelimb and ischia, and notably several fragmentary osteoderms. And when I say several, I mean maybe two. Or maybe three, because essentially there's one of them that is complete enough to look at and say, like, oh, this is probably represents just one individual osteoderm, and then the other two are broken in a way that it's hard to say if they represent small pieces of other osteoderms, or they are two pieces of the same osteoderm. So they're definitely not of the first one. But yeah, I was kind of expecting, because especially with Alamosaurus, it's become such a common sight. I was expecting Alamosaurus to actually have some larger osteoderms that were in association with that area of the body. Honestly, when I was reading through this paper, when it got to the area that the description of the bit of this Alamosaurus that had osteoderms described, I thought I was answering my question right there. That it was just like, oh, it's mostly the lower half of this Alamosaurus, and they found osteoderms with it. That's why they think that that's why it's common to show osteoderms with the lower half of titanosaurs. But no, these kind of don't look like big old spiky horns like we see in prehistoric. I think it's in Prehistoric Planet. Let me see.
I recall the portrayal in Prehistoric Planet actually being fairly conservative. I think they were just bumps.
Let me look. No. Yes. Yes. They're just bumps along the back. They're not. Yeah. Yeah. They're not big old spikes. So I was expecting these big old things like we see in a lot of paleo art of Alamosaurus. And yeah, these osteoderms just kind of look like piles of gravel, like smushed tater tots. They really don't have the structure that I would expect from an osteoderm. Like, if you ever do any fossil hunting and stuff, and you will very, very quick in a region where there are crocodilians, you will very quickly be able to identify croc osteoderms.
Yeah.
They have a very defined shape. They have a very defined texture. It's really easy to tell what's top and what's bottom. And that is also the case with like ankylosaur osteoderms and like most other dinosaur osteoderms that I know of. These things are rough looking. So yeah, I kind of left this paper with more questions than answers about the depiction of osteoderms in titanosaurs in general.
You know, sometimes these paleo art things are based upon nothing.
Yes.
Well, in this case, they are based upon something.
Based upon somebody's reasonable interpretation or speculation that is then picked up on as if it is the result of a recent study that makes it true.
Mm-hmm. Isn't there another one of those in this design?
Are you talking about the neck spikes?
Yeah.
That is another kind of paleo art meme that is becoming.
Well, like I would
popular.
say that this one is slightly less of a the neck spines are, at least on sauropods, slightly less of just a paleo art meme, because like, I mean, Diplodocus did have them, but that is
no
the ventral
ones, not the
these.
the ones that anything has been found to have.
Okay,
The ones that my understanding is someone proposed, hey, maybe.
Yeah, that's the
Bronto Smash.
The Bronto Smash spikes.
Mm-hmm.
Right, which is a cool idea, and I'm not saying that I even think it's wrong, but like I think there's something that it's hard for, it seems to be hard for a lot of people to kind of learn early on. It certainly was for me, is just like, how do you actually trace this information and see what's real?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of things that are in papers that don't get followed up on a lot, but there are many more that are just kind of in our consciousness of the right way to reconstruct the animal. I see a lot of these guides online for like, this is the most accurate way to reconstruct this dinosaur. Most of the time, and I don't say this, I don't say this to imply like anything wrong being done on the part of anybody who's very helpfully trying to make that. But there's a lot of a game of telephone that's being played. And often if you try to dig into the literature, there's not actually published scientific documentation in support of these things.
Mm-hmm.
I certainly feel this with some things about like theropod facial integument. I particularly don't agree with that like recent trend of making there be this huge pavement of really big gnarly scales right at like the front bottom part of the snout. That I don't think is based upon any very solid like work. It was originally what it is based on, and I think this is more valid, is T-Rex in particular has a series of like 3 or 4 polygonal depressions on the maxilla, very consistently. And I think the interpretation was maybe these are holding some sort of osteoderm or very large scale. They certainly look like there's something going in there. It's not an unreasonable hypothesis. I don't know how we would test that unless we found like a mummy, which would be cool, but we haven't found one yet. But that has now been applied to every theropod. And this is the kind of thing I'm talking about, where somebody says the most accurate way to reconstruct T-Rex is with the scale, which is in itself an interpretation, but is a more reasonable one. And then says all theropod dinosaurs had this network of really large scales there. It's also worth noting in T-Rex, it's only like 3 or 4 of them. It's not a whole network. It would be like a couple of large polygonal scales, if they were there at all.
Yeah.
May I give another example?
By all means.
The acorn tails on Pachycephalosaurs.
Oh,
yeah.
yes.
That look like armadillo tails.
Or Uromastyx tails.
Right, yeah. I don't know what that's based on. I think it's just the way they reconstructed them for Saurian.
We had a conversation about this in Ouranosaurus, with trying to discover the origins of the Ouranosaurus was probably bipedal
right
interpretations. Or I mean, hell, another I swear the latter half of this video could just be us naming paleo art memes that are just like, oh, I wonder what this is from. One that's kind of like become difficult to find interpretations without it is the I think it goes back to the Stomping Lands Therizinosaurus with the big ol' porcupine quill tail, the really long feathers that kind of obstruct the.
I think I had actually seen that beforehand, but I mean,
really,
yes, I don't remember where. But yes, again, not impossible.
Yeah, not impossible,
but not right. And by not right, I don't mean I don't mean that it's incorrect. I mean we don't know it's right.
Yeah.
By not right, I don't mean that it's not right.
Well, what I mean is we don't know that it's correct. Yes.
Yes. 100%. It's just the way that you phrase that is very funny.
Well, thank you. I do what I can on this YouTube channel of ours.
But yeah, looking at the paper that describes the Alamosaurus osteoderms, they are in bad shape. And they draw a comparison to other titanosaur osteoderms that are better preserved, and indicate that these may be part of these kind of what are called bulb and root osteoderms, which I kind of want to talk about a bit more. Suffice it to say, in terms of the design of this particular Alamosaurus, I don't have a problem with the osteoderms at all.
No, me neither.
Not their shape, and also not their placement, which we'll talk about too in a bit, as to where they go, because it has been a trend that they're like very symmetrical rows over the sacrum, that these osteoderms are at. That is a trend that has a minor basis in the literature, which we'll discuss, but the shape of these osteoderms conforms pretty decently to what one might extrapolate from the preserved ones, given that they're so beat up. And when you compare them to other titanosaurs, which tend to, there are many of these morphologies of osteoderms. The bulb and root ones are so called because there is kind of one end of them is like a bulb or a cone, and it's attached to a long flat root. And I think the idea behind some of the big spikes that you see, the big cones, is especially an osteoderm from Ampelosaurus from France, which has a big cone shape. And it looks like the bulbs of these bulb and root osteoderms might be kind of cone shaped, is maybe they're supporting like a big keratinous cone. Maybe they're not also. Maybe they're small and kind of like this. Frankly, an interpretation I think I prefer is this shape. I don't know that these are indicative of supporting like a big cone. They are kind of fluted, so I don't know. The other thing I almost wonder is if some of the big kind of spikes that we're seeing, and I don't want to like bring this out as an accusation or anything. It's just something that I think might have happened. Is maybe there's been a misinterpretation of the shape of the bulb and root ones. I'm going to put an image in our Discord, and we'll flash it up on screen too, of a picture of one of these bulb and root osteoderms. And I think it could be easy to mistake the bulb part as where it attaches to the body, and then the root is like this big spike that comes off. I don't know that that has happened, but I could easily see that being the case. Whereas the actual evidence supports that the root is the body of it, and the little bulb is kind of a cone that comes off. The spike could easily just be the cone.
That's weird.
The other thing is that I almost never see. You always see these, well, not always, but you very frequently are seeing these cone spiky osteoderms on titanosaur reconstructions. Very rarely do you see the base of them, this kind of long, weird root that I guess maybe people are taking to be that it's entirely covered in skin and you wouldn't see it, but it is an osteoderm and it's got a external side and an internal side, and you can tell which side is the internal side. And so the root should have some exposure, presumably. So these things should not just be like a cone, but there should be a kind of a pathway leading up to it. They're very strange osteoderms.
That's really weird.
They're really odd. They're really cool, and I do kind of want to see more titanosaur depictions that is a bit more faithful to the morphology of these bulbs and roots, as opposed to just making cones, which are cool. Don't get me wrong, I like a cone. Put it on a titanosaur, cone. Fill it with ice cream. We all love a cone, but I would love to see a bit more diversity in the kind of osteoderms that are depicted on titanosaurs. And I mentioned I'd bring up their placement, and I guess I'll bring that up now. Like we said, there's this kind of classical interpretation of them being over the hips, being paired. There is minimal basis for this. There are very few to any, except for maybe the embryonic titanosaurs, in which there's some skin preserved associated with the body. Basically, titanosaur integument, as far as I can tell from the research, is very rarely ascribed to a part of the body. It's hard. It's not typically like closely associated with bones, and so you don't typically have a good association of, hey, this comes from this part of the body. except to say, like, maybe, yes, you found, like, the back half of the individual. So maybe these osteoderms came from the back. Although it is possible they were from the front of the animal and then just fell off when it died and got preserved. But there is, in this bulb and in the paper that kind of describes the morphology of these bulb and root osteoderms, and that looks at the various osteoderm morphologies of titanosaurs from Spain. This is by Daniel Vidal and colleagues from 2014. They postulate the arrangement of these on the body. They have some ideas. And essentially, you can kind of break it down to the idea being, given how we know osteoderms tend to be kind of paired structures in archosaurs, and that they get more asymmetrical as they move away from the body, there might be kind of sagittal rows of these osteoderms on titanosaurs. Hard to say exactly where they would be on the body, but it seems to be that there's maybe series of these that they are within a row variable, and because the rows are variable, they draw a comparison to stegosaur osteoderms, which are in rows and are variable, and say maybe if they're like stegosaur osteoderms, they might be placed on the body like stegosaurs as well in these rows. They also make the point that there is the diplodocid that has the midline row of spikes that seem to be scales and not osteoderms. But there might have been a midline row of osteoderms that is then flanked by parallel osteoderms. The kind of vasculature they invoke, the evidence of vasculature at the base of these osteoderms where they attach to the body, as potentially being associated with a dorsal artery that bifurcates and then is feeding them with blood supply. That's an interesting idea as well. But they do make it a point to say that locality data supports that these things are probably lightly armored. We don't find tons of these osteoderms with titanosaurs, and exactly how they are arranged. Alternative arrangements of more than 2 paramedian rows, this is a direct quote, each with its own cranial caudal could also be possible, but would require more osteoderms per individual. They're essentially saying this is an interpretation that is congruent with the evidence that we have, but it's not the only interpretation. And there's a lot of unknowns. And they make that clear in the paper. But I think simply the idea that, a conservative interpretation would be that these are midline, or these are paired, kind of running across the midline, has then become somewhat of a paleoart gospel at this point in terms of restoring titanosaurs. Mm-hmm. And right. I would say to paleo artists who are interested in restoring titanosaurs, don't necessarily limit yourself. You can be more creative in that, because we simply don't fully know the arrangement of osteoderms in these animals. I do think an element of symmetry to them is probably the most biologically feasible, because things tend to be symmetrical. But beyond that, I think have some fun until we find a better evidence of where these things are on the body.
Mm-hmm. Right. At which point, please do not have any more fun.
No more fun.
No more fun. No fun allowed. I just thought of the large titanosaur that the large pretty titanosaur that has very prominent ones that I was thinking of. It's the Argentinosaurus in Prehistoric Kingdom. Has a ton
yes.
Of them. Yes.
And it does look good.
It looks nice.
It looks really good. This, as Dalton said, this is plausible. This could happen. This could be exactly how they are. We can't really say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, another thing that is difficult to actually pin down about Alamosaurus here is, where'd it come from? What's up with it?
Well, that's interesting. Are you implying there's a tremendous absence of a bunch of things?
Golly gee, I might be.
Well, I don't know anything about that.
Oh, okay. So let's pull up the Patreon list.
I thought you were accusing me of doing something with all the sauropods.
Oh,
did you eat them?
listen. I don't know.
I was very
know.
hungry.
How hungry?
Hungry.
Alamosaurus front-facing, high detail. How hungry? Yeah.
Well, you know, there's this one kind of interesting thing that happens in North America in the Cretaceous period. And that's that all of that diversity of titanosaurs I was talking about isn't there. It's really, I guess, what doesn't happen in North America at that time. And I think...
I have a question on this. Does this, and I want to make this clear, I'm doing this as a fun setup for this.
Okay.
So I'm curious, does this at all correlate with the other fun thing that North America does during the Cretaceous, which is not fossilize absolutely anything for like half of it?
No, probably.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Well, we do have sauropods through like the kind of Cedar Mountain type Albion-Aptian fauna.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right?
You have Sidarosaurus, right?
And my favorite, Brontomerus.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that Thunder Thighs? Yes.
Brontomerus is, I forget how old it was. It's Albion-Aptian. Yeah. It's again, Cedar Mountain formation. So we have sauropods, and Brontomerus appears to be a Somphospondylium. So we're getting close to titanosaurs. But there is something that does happen in North America and in the rest of the world, which is this Cretaceous terrestrial revolution and the like associated mid-Cretaceous gap, where we have not a lot of fossils. And when you look again, the ecosystem is different. And I guess I should say this isn't necessarily true for all of North America, because we're not really sure about a lot that happened on the other side, right? And
Sure.
what became Appalachia, because there's almost no fossil material. But so in Laramidia, in like the western part of the continent, we lose the fossil record for a little while. And while you're not looking, everything changes. And then when you come back, you see, you know, what looks by all accounts to be like the kind of classic late Cretaceous North American fauna. Like, you know, we do have a little bit of missing time, but by the time the record's good again, you have hadrosaurs, and you have ceratopsians, and you have tyrannosaurs, and you have like troodontids and dromaeosaurs and caenagnathids and all of that, pachycephalosaurs. It, you know, the individual players are different, but the story is very much the same. There's a thing that's conspicuously absent, which are any sauropods, and there is not a trace of them after the mid-Cretaceous. While the fossil
in North America,
yes, they're everywhere. Like, you know, we know them from Asia, and I believe we know them from Africa. We've got African titanosaurs, right? Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. Several from Egypt, at the very least.
Yes. Oh, which are mentioned in the paper that describes Alamosaurus. Sorry, it excited me because Gilmore talks about Stromer being like, Stromer seems to have found some sauropod remains with the fantastic, like, incredible Spinosaurus fossils. Which is a cool reference to that at the time it was being discovered. But as you were, sorry.
There's also Repetosaurus from Madagascar.
I was going to get there, but yes.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we've got African titanosaurs, we've got European titanosaurs, we've got Asian titanosaurs, we've got Malagasy titanosaurs, we've got Repetosaurus in Madagascar. Mm-hmm. I believe we've got a record from Antarctica.
I think so.
Antarctic late Cretaceous titanosaurs?
I know there's late Cretaceous because that's where
Antarctosaurus.
Oh wow.
Well,
yeah.
Yes, I thought it was the one with the most obvious name.
The proud tradition of titanosaurs being place name Saurus.
Yes.
And perhaps most famously, we have them in South America, which is, I believe, where they're first really recognized as this kind of distinct group of enormous dinosaurs. Mm-hmm. You know, Argentinosaurus was the big famous one when I was a kid. You know, nowadays we've got Dreadnoughtus, and we've got Patagotitan, and we've got Dreadnoughtus, and we've got Dreadnoughtus. A lot of people talk about Dreadnoughtus as, I guess, what I'm talking about. Sarmientosaurus, right? Saltosaurus. Futuloncosaurus.
Yes.
Right? Puertosaurus. We've got a lot
classics.
of these guys. And a lot of really, really big fellas. What's fun is that, like, I've never thought about it like this, but the growth of titanosaurs being on display in museum collections is like a trend that we've seen happen.
Yeah.
Yes. We've watched this happen.
Right, because like they used to never be on display, and then the AMNH made the mount of what's now known as Patagotitan, and then that prompted the Field Museum to also have a Patagotitan, and then the ROM now has a Futuloncosaurus, and I believe there's an Argentinosaurus skeleton cast somewhere in Georgia.
In Georgia, yeah, the Fernbank.
Yes,
And there's I don't know when it was installed, but the Perot Museum has Alamosaurus.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think that's a while back.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as far as I know, I think it's the only one.
The only Alamosaurus mount, I believe so.
Yes.
Well, there is one on Isla Nublar.
Oh, right, I forgot.
Yes, there is.
Is that why this is the game?
I don't think so, but I'm sure it helps.
That's true.
I mean, even though that one's just a Patasaurus.
Well, but it's Alamosaurus.
But it's Alamosaurus.
So like, you've basically got everywhere we've got a good record, you find a kind of titanosaur-rich fauna, and they're not really present in North America. And while the fossil record is notoriously incomplete, sauropods
You said the thing.
sauropods are really big, and they tend to preserve pretty abundantly where we know they're around.
Yeah, not completely necessarily, but
Right. Oh, certainly
you
not
get
completely.
chunks.
Yeah.
As is
Right.
stated by the really big thing, because if you're really big, sure, you have big enough parts that might survive fossilization, but they need to be buried, and it takes a lot of sediment to bury a titanosaur.
It sure does. But like, I mean, even think about what Scott said before. Alamosaurus is one of the most common finds, or at least stuff that looks like Alamosaurus in like in the beds that have it, right?
Broadly, titanosaurs.
Yeah.
And yet, in the Caparowitz, in the Waweep, in the Kirtland, in the Fruitland, in the Dinosaur Park Formation, in the Judith River Formation, Lance Formation, Hell Creek Formation, Frenchman, Schollard, nothing. They don't appear to have been present. We've never even found a tooth. And sauropod teeth are pretty diagnostic, at least to the level of being sauropods. So if they were around, you would generally expect to find their teeth. And so while absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And this
You
is
said
an
the other
important
thing.
point. I know. I'm on a roll tonight on the bingo sheet. The comparing the record does paint the image that we think sauropods were probably not present in Western North American ecosystems. Kind of exclusively not present there, as far as we know. Perhaps they were also not present in Appalachia, but we don't have anywhere near the fossil record that we would need to even assess that.
Yeah.
And then we have a Western North American titanosaur right at the end of the Cretaceous. And it's phylogenetically nested within a group of South American titanosaurs. Probably.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's multiple there have been multiple analyses, and I don't think it would be impossible for this to switch over to, like, say, an Asian clade. But as
which
we
has
know,
also been proposed.
Yes, right. And so I guess I kind of got ahead of myself, but there's a very obvious and tempting thing to suggest, which is that Alamosaurus is migrating into North America from South America.
This has been said.
Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd certainly buy it, although I don't think the evidence can really say that 100%.
Not yeah.
Find a big trail of them.
It's a long distance to go.
It is,
They
and
got
it's
big
not,
legs.
and it's not fully bridged, right? Like
It's
they would
a
have
lot
to
of
go
water.
over Yeah,
A lot of water to cross, but not impossible.
They're tall. They can just.
Yeah,
they were just
walk along
walking.
the seafloor. Yes, I think the most common and supported by several kinds of data, including potentially climatic data, is that it seems maybe most likely, I don't know if I want to say likely, but it is most commonly discussed as Alamosaurus being coming from South America into North America. It has been proposed that it maybe came from Asia. That, I think, is more of a relative when we thought it was a really close relative of Opisthoscelicaudia, which does not... I mean, it's related to it, but that level of closeness does not seem to be panning out with recent phylogenetic analyses. But certainly possible. And then it remains a possibility that there are a cryptic population of titanosaurs in North America throughout the Cretaceous that we're just not picking up. That is possible. It is the least supported hypothesis right now.
Right. But yeah, it's very... And as Scott said before, it will only take one fossil to change that, to make it all of a sudden the most supported hypothesis.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
If they were hiding out, I presume they would be on like the west side of the ancestral Rockies.
Probably. There's a paper from 2011 called "Reevaluation of the Mid-Cretaceous Sauropod Hiatus" and the impact of uneven sampling of the fossil record on patterns of regional dinosaur extinction by Phil Mannion and Paul Upchurch. And they kind of advocate for a shift from inland deposits to coastal deposits in North America in the Mid-Cretaceous. I mean, like, we're really not preserving much inland environment compared to coastal, and that might be artifactually getting sauropods out of the sample. But other papers and other more recent papers have also argued that Alamosaurus is an immigrant from another continent. So it's hard to say exactly. The 2011 paper, the reevaluation, also does make mention of some potential fossil finds that might lessen the sauropod gap, but I don't know that they have ever been elaborated on in the literature. So I would just say read that paper if you're interested.
Yeah. And I mean, that is generally the trend you see in the sediment. Like, you know, the places from the mid-Cretaceous that are yielding dinosaur material are generally coastal, which definitely is going to have some impact on what you find.
Yeah. But the idea that there are like no coastal sauropods, I also kind of find would be surprising to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe they don't surf.
Too big.
They hate the waves.
Yeah.
They're not radical enough.
But yeah, regardless of where Alamosaurus is coming from, it is interesting, and I do like to entertain the idea that it is coming up, like that this is a migrant either from Asia or from South America, because I think it is easy to forget sometimes that the dinosaurs didn't know they were going to go extinct.
Yeah.
And biology was happening.
One of them did.
Which one?
It was a Herrerasaurus. It was really weird. It was just like it had a premonition for like 5 minutes back in the late Triassic, and it just saw the rest of all dinosaurian history and was immediately rendered mad by all of the knowledge going into its tiny little, barely functional, couldn't even turn on a light bulb brain.
This is like the meme, like you wake up in the Alps in Switzerland. You are Hannibal Barca.
Yes.
Rome must burn. The future cannot come to pass.
Yes.
So, but like what I mean by this whole they didn't know they were going to go extinct thing is like these populations were shifting, they were evolving, there were changes happening constantly that would have become what we have recorded in the fossil record later had the age of the dinosaurs not just been truncated. And I think, you know, perhaps if Alamosaurus is a South American kind of migrant into North America, perhaps we would have had a reestablishment of sauropods as dominant herbivores in North America.
Yeah.
We don't know what that would have meant for hadrosaurs. Maybe hadrosaurs would have suffered in some degree. Maybe ceratopsians would have. Maybe they wouldn't have. And, you know, it's just that things were changing. Things were moving around. Things were getting larger. They were getting more elaborate. I think it's doubly hard to keep this in mind sometimes because you can't talk about dinosaurs without talking about their extinction. Like, if you ever read a dinosaur book as a kid, what does every dinosaur book end with? Right?
Yeah.
But also, a lot of the animals that we know of from the late Cretaceous of North America are like the biggest ever member of their group. And so it certainly kind of feels like a crescendo before the end.
You had a hit tweet about this, James.
Did I?
Back a while ago, it was it was like that trend of like welcome to the whatever it was like welcome to the whatever formation we have, and then describing a bunch of animals very weirdly.
Yes, right. And my hit tweet was welcome to the Hell Creek formation. We have a rampant taphonomic bias in favor of large body size.
Yes.
But I mean, it is also true. The animals are big. Like Edmontosaurus annectens is far and away one of the largest hadrosaurs known. Only Magnapolia is theoretically bigger, and Magnapolia is not known.
And
Shantungosaurus. Sorry, okay. I forgot Shantungosaurus. Triceratops, largest ceratopsian, except for maybe Torosaurus, which also lives then. Tyrannosaurus rex, perhaps the largest purely terrestrial theropod of all time. If not the largest, certainly the most heavily built. This happens. Alamosaurus is enormous, right? I mean, based on fragmentary material, this is an enormous titanosaur. It was one of the largest land-living animals that ever lived. It certainly feels like it's supposed to be the climax to something. If you were writing a book, you would have it be that everything gets to its apex right before it's destroyed. And so I think it creates this apparent feeling that things are winding down or resolving before it ends. Whereas obviously that's not what was happening, right? These animals were reproducing and breeding right up until the moments before the asteroid hit. One was probably through it. But anyway, I think it's just an important thing to remember about the fossil record. You have to think of them as animals that are alive. And a part of that is not thinking of them only in the context of what happens to them at the end.
I like the way that this animal lays down and gets up in the game.
It's decidedly goofy. I have to say that this depiction of Alamosaurus kind of does give a bit scaled up toy vibes in not just its looks but also its behavior. That way it lays down and gets back up is kind of and I do not mean this as a roast or a real strong criticism, but it's if you asked a child to be oh, how did a sauropod go to sleep? It's oh, like this.
Well, speaking of, I was going to ask, what if we ranked it?
Yeah.
I think we should.
Indeed.
I think we very much should.
What do you think, Elwood? Do you think we should rank this?
Elwood doesn't like our video format.
I think you should leave it a mystery.
Big stretchy boy. I'm going to do a big stretch just like the Alamosaurus.
Speeny's viewer.
You know what's funny? I'm starting to get actually nervous before we spin the wheel.
Yeah.
Because, I can kind of think about things that could be now. There used to be so many things on the wheel, I would never think about it.
It's getting perilous.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, Amelia, what are your thoughts on our large friend?
I think I like it the best of the sauropods. Because I don't care about the face. They're, in my opinion, they're kind of dumb-looking animals in the face anyway, usually. What is a single... besides, Brachiosaurus giraffatitan, what is a single sauropod that looks actually kind of decent and or elegant in the face? None of them. They're horrible horse monsters.
That is true.
I don't know. I'm not usually a fan of the neck bumpies, but these don't bother me because they're subtle. I like it. It's distinct. Yeah. No, I like it. It's my favorite of the sauropods. I'm gonna give it an S because I like it. It looks very different. It actually they put effort into the colors and the patterns. I like the iguana spikes. I like the kind of hump neck thing happening too behind the head. I think that's interesting. Whether, I don't care what it is, if it's muscle or just a sail kind of situation, it doesn't matter. It's interesting and plausible. Yeah, no, I like it.
Well, I don't like it.
Of course.
No, I'm torn on it because I like the attempts at making it very distinctive. I don't like the kind of general pudgy ugliness of it. It is a toy-like feeling that I find I really don't like in these designs. I think Scott put it very well. But I also don't hate it because it does have visual flair. Like, I do like the way they've done the spikes going down the back. I'm okay with the spikes on the underside of the neck, even, with it being stated that there's no proof that any sauropod had that. It's like, it certainly feels like a distinct thing with its own identity. I don't like that it's Littlefoot in the head. I do like its sounds. I do like how big it is. I feel like this for me is a low B. I think I'm going to give it a low B. Like, I do not hate it, and I do appreciate a lot about it, but I find it, the overall package I unfortunately find visually unappealing. So I'm going to go with low B.
Well, first off, I want the record to show that Amelia definitely does actually care about the derpiness of the face of sauropods, despite her previous statement of that they're all just kind of derpy. So I don't care if they're derpy because look at how she massacred my boy that I will defend. Dreadnoughtus did nothing wrong. He's fine.
Is different. That's
he's fine.
I meant that I don't care when they look stupid in the horse way, which that does not. It looks stupid in the water horse way, which is a different kind of stupid horse, and that's unacceptable for a
It's in the Hans way.
It's okay in the water horse because that's actually a really interesting creature design. No.
Fine. But what I'm honestly going to echo a lot of what James said. It is a design that to me is almost there. Like, I like some aspects of the visual flair. I like the armor. I like the little kind of neck display frill thing. I like that it has a pop of color. I really like the stripes going down the tail. I think those are very nice. I'm not the biggest fan of the way that the neck frill is colored. I really don't like the face. And one of the biggest things that I really dislike is, wow, its arms are weird. They look like unfinished clay tubes that were stuck on the underside of its body. And not in the disgusting, horrible way of actual sauropod limbs. The forelimbs on this guy kind of they look oversized for its body. Like, it really does kind of give a similar energy to that Dreadnoughtus toy that you can buy for Jurassic World that's absolutely huge, and it has big old baby feet. So it can stand up and have a low center of gravity and not get knocked over by toddlers. So, like, I want to like it more than I actually do. I will also give this a low B because it's not offensive to me.
I really like it. I don't know if it's my favorite sauropod because I'm trying to just remember what all of them look like, but it's up there. I really, really like having it in the game. It's, I think, the most visually distinct of all the sauropods. It has an interesting silhouette.
Of the big sauropods, I guess.
The big ones, yeah. Yeah, I kind of consider the small ones just separate in general. Like, I know they're sauropods, but it's like, I really like both of the small ones. And they're just fun little guys. But like of all the big sauropods, I think this is the most visually interesting. It's certainly the one that has the best color patterns. It's gotten the most love there. I guess maybe the Jurassic Park 3 Brachiosaurus notwithstanding, but I don't like that one. So away with it from my mind. It feels a little bit. It broaches on a hat with the like. I think they should have picked either the dorsal spikes or the neck spines and not both. And they should have done the dorsal spikes. I don't like the neck spines, but they're so small they don't bother me a tremendous amount. But I really like the osteoderms. I like these. I like the shape of it generally. I do see where you're coming from with the arms. Those are unfortunate. And the head is also unfortunate. But, well, the head, I don't think... The head does not map onto what we would expect titanosaur heads to look like. And while we don't... It gets some leeway from the fact that we don't have an Alamosaurus skull. I don't suspect that Alamosaurus would differ so strongly from the other titanosaurs that it would look like this. So I'm not saying, oh, you know, we don't know, so maybe it did look like this. Maybe it did, but I don't think it did. I think it's wrong, but it kind of brings me peace. It looks kind. This looks like a wise friend as opposed to like a dangerous beast. This animal would engage in wise posting. If you're familiar with that meme,
what is wise posting? What is that?
I'm not familiar with this
meme. Wise posting comes from a tweet, I believe, where someone was like, "I had a dream where everyone was on the internet posting images of Confucius and like making Confucius like statements, and they were doing wise posting. And if you did something foolish, then everyone would gang up on you and start calling you unwise." And I really like the idea of wise posting. Okay. And I think that this Alamosaurus would wise post. I like it a lot. And it like to James's point of it being pudgy, it is pudgy, but it doesn't cross like the threshold to me of looking ridiculous. I think it's like, I'm not generally a person who's like, oh, make the dinosaurs like really pudgy. I think that trend kind of got overdone at a point. I think we're on the backswing from that in terms of broader paleo art. But this doesn't hurt me. This does not harm me in its pudginess. I think I would give it a low S. I really like it.
Huh.
And our missing member, the intrepid Alex, said that he gave it an A. So I guess with an A, 2 S's, and 2 B's, I think that just pretty solidly just goes right in A tier.
I think so, yeah.
A for Alamosaurus.
Oh, well, of course that's the answer. I don't know why we didn't see it soon.
I don't know why.
But is it time to spin the wheel?
It is indeed.
And is it time for me to confirm that you're recording?
I have been, yes.
Okay, just checking.
I need to watch
It is
the
indeed time to spin
that wheel. It's getting so dangerous now.
Come on.
Oh. Wet.
Just when you thought it was safe to get back in the water.
Okay. Cool. Ichthyosaurus next time.
Fish lizard time.
One might say these things give us the ick. Amelia in particular. I recall last night you saying... Well, I remember last night Amelia said that she, and I quote, does not condone ichthyosaurs. So, anyway, we're going to talk about one of them next week. But before we talk about one of them next week, I have one more thing to say this week. And what I have to say this week is that we thank our patrons very much. Because we are full-time scientists, paleontologists, real paleontologists doing real paleontology, and we are also content creators. And we think it's really important for what we do that we are both, right? We strive to bring you the kind of, strive to kind of pull the veil back on what's going on in research behind the scenes and really talk about these things as scientists consider them. But of course, this takes a lot of time. And the fact that we have 2 full-time careers makes this very challenging, and we really, really appreciate the support that so many of our patrons give us. If you join our Patreon, you'll get a whole host of benefits, including starting soon at Jungasukus tier or higher, free shipping. And if you are a supporter at Gorgosaurus tier or higher, you also get a spoken shout-out at the end of every video to let us know how grateful we are for your extremely generous support.
Yes.
And as of this recording, these patrons are Benjamin Siepser, nickname Philip Fico, Christopher Bellis-Jones, Aaron Anderson, Adamolos, Blacklight Virus, Camphibia, Chaotic Kaiju, Dan O'Kyrus, Dino Dom, Jim Morphus Gas, Kevin Preem, King Zashu, Life Finds a Way, Max Ironpaw, Pythonic, Ryan Wants to Die, Swamp Ape Science, Wanderer, and we. And that's a nice long list right there.
That is. I was like, wow, we're going.
It's kind of amazing. But anyway, thank you all so much for your support of the Skeleton Crew. If you are not inclined to support us on Patreon, I also want to make sure you know that's okay. But in exchange, may I ask for a paltry like on this video and even the most meager of comments to boost us in the algorithm. Please leave a meager comment with the phrase, "This is my meager comment."
I would love to see some meager posting.
Yeah, please meager post. Or wise post if you can. Anyway, thank you all very much. We'll see you next week when we talk about Ichthyosaurus.
Indeed.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.